Jill is our last speaker of the day, and she stepped into the pro-life ministry as a whistleblower when she discovered babies were being born alive during abortions and left to die at the hospital. She has helped make people aware that babies do survive abortion procedures and should receive medical intervention. Now she's pivoted and she's serving as the community outreach manager for this special project that I am really excited about because it's an awesome tool to help our churches serve women now that Roe has been overturned. It is called Her Plan. It is sponsored by the Susan B. Anthony Foundation. Is that a fair thing to say, right?
Educational fund.
Okay, educational fund. And she is here to tell us all about the Her Plan and how your church can use it. Jill.
Thank you, Georgette, and thank you to everybody who stuck around to the end of the day, and all of you people online. Shout out to you too. As Georgette said, I'm Jill. I held an abortion survivor myself. It's been almost 25 years now, and that propelled me into the pro-life movement. For the last 7 years, I've been working for Susan B. Anthony, now Pro-Life America. And this is the last time I'm going to be speaking as an SBA staffer. I retire at the end of the month. So that's kind of where it all started for us as far as Her Plan goes. You can go ahead and, the first slide. I represent Her Plan. It is an acronym for Pregnancy, Her Pregnancy, and Life Assistance Network. We are part of a 501c3 component of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. And as I start out, I want to give a shout out to Wendy Wright and Jean Lee because, yes, go ahead and give them applause. Even if you don't know why yet, they deserve it. When we were getting off the ground with Her Plan a couple years ago, we met with them and they gave us good advice, really good advice. They didn't just say, that sounds like a good idea, like they gave us advice on how to be better. And so this is the fruit of your help. So thank you very much for that. Next slide, Sammy. So a few years back, SBA Pro-Life America started thinking about the fact that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned. Who knew that it would be last year? But along the same, we started to think about, are we ready? And about the same time in Northern Virginia, a lady named Cheney Mullins, now Gooley, was working for Dr. Bruchowski in Divine Mercy Care, and he had told her that he wanted a good resource list of assistance providers. If a pregnant mom in need came in, he wanted to know if she was hungry, like where would she go to get food, if she needed legal help, that kind of thing. And so Cheney started assembling this list of assistance providers, and it got too big. And so Divine Mercy Care said, we don't have the funding to keep going with this. And so Cheney came to Susan B. Anthony list right about when we were asking, what are we going to do to get ready for the defeat of Roe v. Wade? So Her Plan is also a child of Cheney and Dr. Bruchowski as well. Next slide. So Her Plan, this is a map of all of the states that have made abortion illegal in the light blue. We're up to 14 states that abortion is illegal or almost all illegal. And Her Plan is going to be in 29 of those states, the 29 states that we have already overturned abortion or we think are anticipated to overturn abortion in the next couple of years. So by 2024, we're going to be in 29 states. Right now we're at 7. Next slide. I'm going to explain a little bit about what Her Plan is about. Our reach is pregnant moms at risk for abortion and birth, adoptive, and foster care families with children up to 1,000 days old from conception. So 1,000 days old from conception is about 2 years old. Next slide. Our goals are to connect and aid life-affirming assistance providers, connect community organizations and providers, and to fill service gaps. Next slide, Sammy. What we discovered was, with the help of Guttmacher Institute, believe it or not, that there are 7 basic reasons that pregnant moms cite for seeking abortions, and they're listed on the screen. We also have brochures at our table downstairs if you would like to have a copy. And in response to those 7 reasons, we have devised 7 categories of care, 7 responses, 1 response for each reason that a mom says she wants to get an abortion. And we look, and those are our 7 categories. And then, next slide. We found within those 7 categories, 25 categories. This isn't just about pregnancy help centers, as important as they are, and they are usually the gateway to pregnant moms in need. They have so many other needs that they have cited. They may have an abusive partner. I mean, some of their needs are very critical. They may be homeless. They may not have proper legal papers. There's all kinds of reasons that they say that they don't think that they can keep their baby. And so what we do is we locate all of the assistance providers in all these different areas. We're putting them on a directory, and the goal is that we see this falling mom, doesn't know what she's going to do, and between the pro-life movement, all of the vessels of the pro-life movement, we can answer that so that we will be her safety net. Next slide. So our first goal is to connect life-affirming assistance providers. Next slide. And so what we do is, we're in 7 states now, as I said. Virginia was our first state, Northern Virginia. So what Cheney started and what we're continuing is, Cheney started scouting all of the life-affirming assistance providers in Northern Virginia. And then we vet them. We follow the same path now in Virginia, and we're now in 12 states as far as our online directory goes, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. So we we look for life-affirming assistance providers. We do a quick vet of them to make sure that they don't look sketchy, and then we invite them to become a part of her plan to get on our directory. If they say yes, then we do a little bit of a deeper dive on them. We make sure that they're properly insured, properly licensed, have ADA accessible rooms and doors, that kind of thing. And then we will publish them in our list online. And then we promise to maintain that list too. It'll always be evergreen. But what we found out is, over the last 50 years of legalized abortion, this huge cottage industry has grown up of pro-lifers in different organizations seeing that there's a need, and then they find their niche and they fill that need. They're everywhere, but nobody really knows who each other is. And so one of our goals, reasons for existing, is to find all of these life-affirming assistance providers and put them in one spot, and that's how we do it. Next slide. This is our directory. And you can access it at herplan.org. Anybody can access it. It's really a little higher level, though, meant for assistance providers and churches to use, but anybody can get into it. And it's a wonderful tool. What it does is, I told you that we have listings in 12 states now. How many are we up to? 1,000? 15, 14? 1,500. We have located 1,500 life-affirming assistance providers now in 12 states. We post them on our directory. You can find the help for a mom by putting in her zip code, her state, what her needs are, and out will come these icons with places that she can go to get the help. And you can be confident that behind your back, this place is not going to recommend abortion. And we do one more thing. You see in the bottom left-hand corner this little leaf. Next slide. This is a designation that we give to certain providers when it's germane. If these providers are involved in caring for pregnant moms or moms who want to be pregnant, these providers have pledged that they will not provide any hormonal contraception, fertilization, artificial insemination. This is very important to some Catholic groups, a lot of Protestant groups, and also for the Green movement. That's finally catching up. I've always wondered, how could you be in the Green movement and yet advocate putting this slow drip of artificial steroids in a woman over the course of decades? And I'm talking about hormonal contraception. There's a reason that contraception wasn't devised for men, and I think it's because they would never say, sure, put these steroids in me and let's see what happens, but we do. And so in answer to that, we have the LEAF designation. Next slide. Our next goal is to connect community organizations and life-affirming assistance providers, and this is my niche at her plan. My dad was a pastor. One of my sons is a pastor. I have a real heart for the church. On the other hand, I'm a pro-life activist. I held a little abortion survivor until he passed away. It can't get any much worse than that. And so you have on the one side an activist, and on the other side a person who really is trying to have compassion for her church. I love my church. And so in answer to that, we're trying in productive, positive ways to help churches become more involved in life-affirming work. And in this post-Dobbs season, this is the church's moment to shine. Roe v. Wade is now off the table, and all the controversy that those 3 words incited inside churches, it's gone now. And even if you belong to a pro-abortion church, they still care about pregnant and parenting moms too. So and they know that there's going to be an increase in them since past June of mothers who can't procure abortions, and so they care too. So we're trying to find ways to encourage churches to become involved, find them being good, and help them to be better, not browbeat them. Next slide. And so we have created, Cheney and I wrote this guide called the Pathways Guide for Churches. And we have a couple copies downstairs if you want to leaf through them. They're also online, and so you can access them online and you can download them and print them too. And if you really want a hard copy, we will be sure to send that to you. Just give us your address. We're at that table downstairs, right kind of underneath me, I think. So this Pathways to Life guide has over 100 models in it, 100 ways that churches can become involved in life-affirming work. We've divided them into our 7 categories of care. And next slide, please. And within this guide, you have in the front section of a state, we have social and abortion information about a state, in this case, Virginia. Next slide. And then our Pathways Guide has each of the 7 sections is divided into A, B, and C. A is simple things that a church can do to get their feet wet if they haven't really been involved in pro-life work, such as, hey, hold a diaper drive. Who can't do that? Give them ideas, and also we give them models. We give them articles, we give them organizations that they can contact, and these organizations have given their permission to be listed, studies and such, so that if your church is interested in adoption, I've told you that this cottage industry has arisen that helped these pregnant and parenting moms in need over the course of the last 50 years, and so these models are there for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And this is really helpful for smaller churches too that don't have a lot of resources. You can get your resources from these organizations, a lot of them free, because they really, that's their whole goal in life. So Section A is just ideas to get involved in life-affirming work, connecting with local life-affirming assistance providers. B, next slide. B B is a little more advanced if you're wanting to become involved in direct services. We just met Pat, no, what was his name? Who wants to do the maternity home? Mr. yeah. He, so if your church wants to get involved in something bigger, then we offer these ideas in section B. And I'll also mention that each of our models lists the theological foundation for that model. So if you're a church and you're looking at a Bible study, you will know that this Bible study was originated non-denominational, Catholic, Lutheran, Anglicans, and you will know the thinking that went into this Bible study to help you understand their, and be confident in their frame of mind. And then C, we have an educational component in each section too, pertaining to that section. And so these include Bible studies that can help educate your parishioners on pro-life apologetics they might not know about, helping them to understand sex trafficking. They may have no clue that that's going on, but we offer informational opportunities for churches to help their members become better, stronger pro-lifers, more knowledgeable, more confident. Next slide, please. And we also offer a church assessment at herplan.org. Each church is individual. Each church has a certain personality. It has certain gifts among its membership. It has certain needs in its community. They're all unique. And so what we want to do is help churches find something that we know that they're going to follow through on because their church is interested in this topic. And so this assessment, it's a 10-minute assessment that anybody can take within a church and kind of start to figure out where your church's strengths are, where your church's interests are, should be that you hadn't even thought of before. And again, anybody can take this quiz. Next slide. And finally, our third goal is to fill service gaps. And what does that mean? Next slide, please. This is, if we're in an area and we see that there's something missing in that area as far as service goes, we will encourage churches and service organizations that already exist to get together and figure out about how to fill this gap. This example right here comes from West Virginia. That's one of her plan states. West Virginia has one of the highest opioid addiction rates in the country. And we found that there was only one counseling service for pregnant opioid addicts in the whole state. And so that's an example of a gap that we will work to try and fill. Last slide. We've been endorsed by the American College of Pediatricians, the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, mycatholicdoctor.org. And I hadn't yet mentioned that we are HIPAA certified. I mentioned that we have this directory. I didn't get into nearly as much about the directory as there is to get into. But one component of the directory is if your organization is listed on the directory, you have access to the inside of her plan, and you can communicate in a HIPAA compliant way with a doctor. Say a PHC, Pregnancy Help Center, wants to send someone to see pro-life OB. They can communicate through her plan in a HIPAA private way. And that is it. So I didn't see, I don't see. You left
a few minutes, so we can do a couple of questions.
Okay. The final questions of the day, and then
there you go.
Get to go home.
If anybody wants to submit any questions virtually, we would love to have those. But I would like to start by asking a simple question. Have you've started using this with churches and with other organizations? Can you give me an example of how it lives itself out?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like a testimony.
Yeah, one quick example that comes to mind is in West Virginia. our state coordinator, and we have state coordinators in these 7 states, and we will have state coordinators in 15 of our 29 states eventually, but they live in the state. Their whole job is to help that state with service providers and churches. So in West Virginia, our state coordinator, Kayla Kessinger, was approached by a maternity home that was trying to be self-sustaining and had grown all these vegetables in a garden, and then come fall, as with all gardeners know, you have all this stuff, and like, you know, what are you gonna do with it? And so they didn't know how to can. And so Kayla found a church, ladies in a church, that were happy to help them learn canning. And they went and spent the day with them. And sometimes it can be as simple as that, Georgette, and other times it can be a lot bigger. We helped, you've heard of the Pink House in Mississippi, the infamous abortion mill in Jackson. It's now gone. But it was called the Pink House because it was bright Pepto gross pink. And it's been painted now that it's gone, thank goodness. But now in the city of Jackson, there's called a Yellow House. And the Yellow House is a fledgling maternity home. And her plan helped them find grant money, and quite a hefty grant that helped them get launched off the ground. And so that's another example.
Okay, great. The question over there?
I live in a life hostile state, New York, and we're sort of like the 29 gray states. What is your plan for reaching into those places? Because there, the pro-life services are even more fragmented because there's so much hostility.
Yes, the question is, what about those states that aren't going to be, aren't one of our 29? They're one of the deplorable states, and I live in one, Illinois. The thing is that we're going after the low-hanging fruit first, of course, and we know the states where abortion has been banned, or almost all banned, that's where the greatest immediate need is going to be. As far as going into hostile states, one of the problems is going to be that when you live in a hostile state, you duck. You want to go underneath the radar so that the pro-aborts don't come and attack you. So we would have a hard time finding life-affirming assistance providers in a state like a pregnancy help center in New York that posts itself on her plan, could look at being firebombed next week. So that's one of the problems that we have. But we're very sympathetic to the states like California, New York, Illinois, and if there comes a time when we have the capacity, we would love to get into those states, but there's some drawbacks, there's some hurdles to jump over.